Hi friends, if you are someone who struggles with reaching depth in their squat and you feel like you can never get below parallel or you really struggle with it, I'm going to give you today 3 tips to help you improve your depth or mobility, if we want to call it, in your squat so that you can squat a deeper squat. Now, a lot of people say that if you don't have calves to ASS, your butt, it doesn't count, or calves to ham, it doesn't count. And so while most people should strive to be improving their mobility on their squat and depth over time, it is okay if you're only at or slightly below parallel. The only time it really matters is if you're competing in a sport where it does matter to get below this. But generally we want to get you to parallel or below, and there's 3 easy ways to improve your squat mobility or depth, as easy and simple as today. So let's get started with tip number 1. So if you're in the gym and you're trying to squat and you get under the bar and you start to kind of look like this. So you get under the bar, you get set up, and then you're kind of struggling to get down to that point. The first thing I want you to do is to ask yourself are you doing too much weight? So I have a pretty light load of weight on this bar here today, something that I can easily squat for many, many reps just to give you for demo purposes. But your bonus tip of the day is that if you're not reaching a greater depth in your squat, is to drop the load until you can find a place at which your body is comfortable or feels confident or feels safe squatting that weight. Sometimes we don't reach depth just because we start to get a mental block, we get afraid of doing it, or we stop ourselves, or our body just doesn't know how to have strength within that range of motion quite at that time. So you might end up having partial reps instead of those full reps. So your bonus tip of the day is to first drop the weight into where you can squat it to full range of motion or to parallel and start from there. So if you can't squat to parallel at all right now with body weight, some of these tips will still help you today, but that is my tip for you in general, is to drop your ego, drop the load. And so a lot of people will say that when you are squatting, you need to have your feet shoulder width apart. And so that's a good starting spot. That's a good rule of thumb of a place to start. But what I want you to do is, if you have trouble getting to that deeper range of motion, your anatomy or your hips just might not be letting you with that narrower stance that someone else might be able to get away with, like me. So what I want you to do first is, if you're trying to squat with a narrow stance and you can't get to that full range of motion, is to just simply take a step out. You can be a little wider than shoulder width apart. That's perfectly fine when it comes to squatting in the gym, and it will essentially create more room for your hips to go and drop down. So let's try it. So you set up at the bar like normal, you get your back under, and you raise, you do your 3 steps. But when you do your 3 steps, you just simply get a little bit wider, set up as normal, and then drop down into your squat position. So as simple as widening your stance might be all you need to create the room for your hips to allow you to drop down and reach parallel or below in your squat. So let's start tip number 2. So tip number 2, if you're having a hard time reaching full range of motion and or getting to parallel in your squats, is to get an elevated shoe. So this is a squat shoe or an Olympic weightlifting shoe. This is a Nike Romalo 4. I believe these are the shoes I use for weightlifting and now squatting, but I never squatted in heel elevated shoes for years and years and years until I started training for Olympic weightlifting. So you don't need to go buy a whole new pairs of shoes. Tip number 3 will help you with this as well, but simply an elevated pair of shoes. So an elevated pair of shoes is just going to help decrease the range of motion of what your calf needs. So if you feel like your heels are lifting and or you can't get to depth because your squat is causing your heels to raise when you're doing that, this is a great way to do that as well. So I'm gonna put on my squat shoes to show you what this looks like while I'm squatting here in the gym, but all it's doing is just creating a slight heel. These have a sturdy base for you to squat on, so they're just helping you increase that range of motion for you to squat with in the gym on there. So it's as simple as raising up your heel will help. By simply wearing my shoe, it decreases the range of motion of which my foot and calf have to bend in that squat. So I'm able to stay in my heels and keep my weight in my heels. So I'm both not kind of tipping forward in my squat, keeping my weight in my heels, but also increasing that range of motion and squat depth that I'm able to achieve. So same thing as always, you can still keep your wide stance if you need to or want to during this. Do your normal setup, big brace breath, and drop down. Now, if you don't want to run out and go and buy a whole $150 pair of shoes and you're just in the gym lifting for fun, recreation, or you just want to improve your squat range of motion without the excess of pair of shoes, like I said, I didn't buy fancy squat shoes until the last year of lifting, and I've been lifting for 10 years, but what you can do instead is use some 2.5 pound plates. Almost every single gym is going to have 2.5 pound plates. They might not have smaller ones, but they will have this, or 5 pound plates. I lied, these are 5 pound plates. 5 pound plates, or these 2.5 pound plates, depending on how much of an increase or a little boost you need. So all you can need to do is take these plates and set them up right about where your feet are going to sit for your squat. You kind of figure out where you're at and you set up like normal. Same thing, you're gonna get under that bar And then you're just going to step onto the plates where you think that you're going to be. You can always adjust them if you need to. Big brace and drop into that squat. This is a perfectly fine alternative instead of buying fancy shoes. It works, it's not cheating, it's okay to do. And almost every gym has these plates, these little 5-pound plates or 2.5-pound plates for you to squat on and stand on and just increase that slight range of motion if you don't want to buy whole new fancy shoes. So I just did that set in my Metcons for years. I lifted in Vans, Converse, flat foot with that little bit of a heel raise, and it just does the trick as good as any fancy pair of shoes will. And so trick number 3 that I am going to encourage you to do when you do your squats to help you train and learn what it feels like to squat to depth is to slow down your tempo. So a lot of people will just bomb down the descent of their squat, and it just kind of causes them to essentially not take advantage of the stretch reflex within our muscles. And you also just might lose that entirely, or you freak out because you get too low and you feel like you can't stand back up and you haven't created that tension in your squat. And so tempo also will help you learn to kind of slow down and feel where your body's at in that squat position and help you get to that lower depth and a little bit more comfortably. So what I want you to do is, so when you go into your squats, you don't need to do a 3-second tempo on every single squat you do for the rest of your life, but slow it down. And so I usually encourage this to clients when they're trying to feel out where the depth of their squat is. It's just a really easy way for you to kind of feel that a little bit better. So if you're getting to here and you're freaking out and you don't know where to go, get under the bar. Get on your plates if you're using them, or the flat floor, and you brace instead of dropping like this, which is pretty lightweight for me, so I do. Brace and just slow that tempo down as you descend. It might seem counterintuitive, slower rep is going to feel a little bit harder, but you're also just going to feel your body better and where it's at, and actually kind of figure out how to stabilize it, control it, and also take advantage of your muscles cross-bridging within them during that squat. So that way you're not losing all of that tension and you're able to actually have a stronger squat than if you were just flopping around or trying to find depth and then quickly get back up. Just take your time to slowly lower to the point that feels comfortable for you, and just, you know, take that time to descend in that squat for a second or two. Like you see, I wasn't a long 3-second tempo, although you can do those, but just taking my time to brace and breathe and control myself on the way down so I can feel strong standing up and get to a place where I'm still strong in the hole or the bottom of the squat, wherever that is for me. Okay, so I hope that was super helpful and super informative and you feel more confident going into your squats. If you still struggle with this, you want a program that will help you learn how to squat, progress better, and get from bodyweight to barbell, you can sign up for the LIST Method Begin, which will take you through bodyweight to barbell progression to get you stronger and more confident in the gym. Or you can join us in Lighten Pro, where us as coaches will be there to help give you video feedback and or develop the progression for you to help you get stronger in your squats and improve them and work on them over time. So if you found this helpful, as always, like, subscribe. If you want to sign up for a program, click the link below. We'd love to see you in the LIST Method, and we'll catch you in the next video.